video, I install a Warn Axon 55S winch in the front of my Subaru Forester. It has a wireless app to work with your phone. It shows winch load, battery voltage and winch temperature. Very cool. You can control it from outside of your car with your phone. And it seems to work very well. I certainly can't stop it. So if you want to see me install this and show you through it, stick around.
This fairlead bracket that came with the winch cradle required a bit of adjustment. It was protruding into the opening of the fairlead, but after a little bit of trimming and a quick paint job, it came up, no worries. If it becomes problematic down the track with these narrow, small bits of material left behind, I can always replace it. Alrighty, so cracking into things here with the disassembly of the front end. You'll notice I don't do a lot of talking during this installation process. I had a big job cut out for me, so I decided to just crack on with the work and do some voiceovers in the editing process. Most of this is pretty self-explanatory, however, I'll jump in here and add a few little notes whenever I feel like they are necessary. Here you see me cutting off some zip ties. Most people have bumper clips. However, because I bash my front bumper off-road a lot, I tend to break all these. So zip ties for the win. Again, because of my off-road driving, you see the front end of the Foz here is a little worse for wear. This radiator support could definitely do with some TLC. However, carrying on, get the job done. Alrighty guys, pretty excited for this one. We've got the Foz dismantled and a few goodies ready to go in. We've got this Warn Axon 55S synthetic rope winch, this little winch cradle, a really cool fairlead. But yeah, this is the winch. Comes with a wireless hub adapter, so you can control the winch with your smartphone. Pretty cool. Now it came with pretty thin wire, so I upgraded. It came with about 6 BNS wire, upgraded to this 2 BNS wire. Should be a lot more appropriate. Got a nice winch isolator and all the rest of the bits and bobs. A K-on number plate bracket. Obviously Kinchrome tools, so let's get it done. Okay, after all that disassembly, time to jump into the installation of this winch cradle. First bolt goes in, no dramas, and on the other side I'm trying to put a second bolt in just to hold it in place, and I'm having a bit of drama getting the holes to align. Even though they're slotted for a little bit of movement, the bolt holes still didn't line up, so I had to use a little bit of leverage here. Now, this product is potentially a little bit of a misfitting product. However, my front end is also a bit beaten up, so that could be contributing to this issue here as well. Now, this winch cradle is no longer available to purchase. It was manufactured by Subaru Extreme. However, it wasn't manufactured by the current owners. There was a owner that had it for a short while, and they brought out a whole lot of new products and gave things a good crack, and in the end sold it back to the original owners, I believe. So unfortunately this is no longer available, and the people that did own Subaru Extreme for a short while had a good crack at it and came out with a whole lot of new products, which was really cool, but they had a few communication issues. I really had a problem getting this winch cradle sorted. There was a few things I wanted different from the way you could order it from their website, and they did everything they could to help me, but the communication just wasn't excellent. So maybe that's part of the reason why it didn't work out for them. They were lovely people though, and it was really great that they did bring out some products like this. So this really has nothing to do with Super Extreme. It's not manufactured by them anymore, and it was made under different ownership. However, if there's enough inquiries for it, you never know, they could bring it back. As I mentioned earlier, I upgraded the winch wiring, and because I have this thicker wire, it required larger lugs. And even though I got the correct size lugs for the terminals on the winch, they were still a bit wide, so I had to trim them down slightly. This hydraulic crimper is a new tool for me. I've previously done plenty of 12-volt wiring, and I had a crimper that would go up to a certain size lug, and this lug was just a little bit too big for it. So I purchased a new hydraulic crimper, which was a bit of a new experience for me. Just a cheap one, but it seemed to work quite well, and it was a bit of fun. Took a little bit of figuring it out, but it seemed to do quite a good job in the end. After having great success on that positive wire, we move on to doing the negative wire. Now, the size of this is 2 BNS. That was what was on the label on the wire when I bought it at the shop. However, some places refer to it as AUG or gauge, and I believe all three of them are the same thing. So it's 32mm squared wire, and yeah, I believe they're all the same. So if you know any different, or you know the answer to that, comment down below. With these narrow channels on the winch where these lugs bolt into, it is a very tight fit. So even after grinding these lugs down slightly and heat shrinking them, I had to trim off the edges of the heat shrink just so they would fit in the channel. And the same thing with this little lug cover, I had to trim that slightly to allow them to fit correctly. So after lining up the winch bolts and getting everything in place loosely, You see me shaking and wobbling it all around, basically making sure the winch is sitting happily, and the fair lead bracket poking out the front there, it's got slotted holes on it, so I'm pulling that far forward as possible because I want the fair lead to come up to the front of the bumper and sit flush with that. Here you see me cutting out the hole for the fair lead by hand. I did consider cutting it with a thin cutting disc on my angle grinder. However, it was late hours of the night, early morning hours, potentially. And I'm in a carport, not in a car garage, so I didn't want to be making too much noise with my poor neighbours. Anyway, got that cut out, and it was time for a test fit of the bumper to make sure it all lined up properly with the fair lead. Everything seemed to fit well enough for now, so I moved on to the next job. Here you see me drilling out a hole in a grommet. There's a conveniently located grommet for me on my driver's side footwell, and this didn't have anything running through it, so I just drilled a hole through it, cut it up with the box cutter to allow a bigger plug to fit through, and yeah, just ran the controls through to the footwell. I zip tied them up underneath the steering column because I can use my phone to control it. I may still, however, install these into the dash somewhere in the future, but late at night I didn't want to be cutting up my car, and I can just use the phone to control it for now. Okay, so here we are. Everything is installed, ready for the bumper to go back on. Got the wire all routed neatly, going up to this winch isolator, and I'm pretty happy with how it all turned out. But this is very late at night here, so I'm just going over it very quickly. You'll see everything's double zip tied and holding everything nice and firmly so it won't wriggle around and wear through on anything. Also got conduit running across all the positive wires. So anyway, time to chuck the bumper back on, button it down, and get ready for bed. Okay guys, so taking off from where I left you last time, I was installing the winch in my carport. It ended up getting very late into the night hours. It was actually about 2:30 in the morning by the time I finished it. So understandably, towards the end of it, I kind of gave up on filming, but just doing this today to show you through the finished product. Basically, yeah, we've got the winch installed behind this bumper here. So you can see a little subtle Easter egg, the Warn winch logo there. And we've got this K-on bracket for the number plate, nice and sleek. That's one of the most low profile flip up plate mounts I could find on the market. So very happy with that. And behind here, we've got the Yankum fair lead. So I'll show you guys in a bit more detail up close of the finished product. So let's do it. Okay, so starting with the bracket itself here, we've got the K-on bracket with these little adjusting nuts so it can be tightened if need be, but I've got it just at the right amount of tension now so you can lift it up and it stays there and it doesn't go anywhere even if you give it a tap. So that'll be nice and handy, not falling down on the rope while you're winching, and if you do need to tighten it, easy to do in the future. And just again, subtly, the little Warn logo poking through the bumper, really like that. Didn't know that was going to happen. That's how it turned out, very cool. And this Yankum fair lead, the grooved hookless design, you can just use your winch rope, the end of your winch rope, to loop around one of these ends and tighten it in, no metal required. And then you've got this little strap so you can tighten the last little bit of the winch rope without worrying about jamming your fingers. So that's nice. And yeah, very sleek little setup, very happy with that. Onto the engine bay here, we've got the controller cable running up. It even clips into a factory clip on the back of the headlight here, which is very nice. 2 zip ties holding this little Bluetooth module in place that is solid, not going anywhere. And I've zip tied everything back, conduit around the cable Even though it's already a heavy duty cable, I thought I would put some extra protection in the engine bay. Tucks up underneath this plastic here, that's holding it nice and solid. More zip ties holding it in place, and then down through a rubber grommet at the back there. And over on this side at the positive terminal of the battery, we have nice conduit that's heat shrinked onto the cable with dual wall heat shrink, which has got a glue layer. You might be able to see there the glue melts when you heat shrink it, so that conduit is not going anywhere. And that's heat shrinked on top of the lug that is also heat shrinked. Again, all with the adhesive heat shrink, so it's nice, secure and waterproof connection. And that's neatly in there. This is for my BC-DC charger. I might actually put a little bit of heat shrink on that and give it the same treatment as this one. As you can see here, this is loose and wobbly, not as nice as that one, solid. Anyway, that goes down to this TJM isolator switch, and that just bolts onto the battery clamp. Very easy install. One bolt, undo the battery clamp, put this in, and I just put an extra washer and bolted it down. It's an easy little on and off option. And then that runs through down to the winch, and everything is double zip tied. I've got it all zip tied along through the frame, not rubbing against anything, all covered in conduit anyway, and it's all zip tied to the winch cradle. Double zip ties running in a cross pattern, so it's nice and solid. So anyway, that's a quick little overview of the winch setup, and nice and subtle install with a little Easter egg Warn logo poking through the grill there. Last thing to do now, I think I might set this up to do a little bit of pre-tensioning on the winch. I already did it in my driveway, but it wasn't very consistent. There was a little bit of ups and downs in the driveway, so I might do it again and just get a nice consistent tension on that rope. Alrighty, so setting up for a quick little winch tension here. Got a tree trunk protector. Here we are trying to get the winch into free spool. It's a little bit tricky, but with squeezing your hands up you can reach the free spool switch just, and it's a bit of a compromise, but I didn't want to cut a big hole in my bumper, so happy with that for now. And pulling the winch out, hooking it up to the tree, then pulling the rest of the rope out until there's 5 wraps left around the barrel. This is what Warn specifies when you're pre-tensioning your winch rope, to leave that amount on the barrel. And going from there, we get stuck into it. So guys, as you would have just seen, this wireless control with your phone is working very well, and although this winch is under tension, it's not under too much load, just a very slight gradient. So usually being in this area while you're winching is a very bad idea, but with a controlled sort of environment like this, where you're on a nice even slope and you're not putting huge tension on the winch, you're not stuck in a bog hole or a really steep hill pulling a huge weight. I just want to make sure that the rope is getting properly tensioned onto the drum for the first time. I have actually done this once before in my driveway. I don't believe it was quite good enough, so doing it again now under a little more tension and a little more consistent load, and just getting it nice and tight around the drum so that it can work properly in case there's any future recovery situations. Anyway, we'll carry on getting it nicely wound evenly around the drum, and see you at the end. Okay, so now I'm going to pop the car in park, pull the handbrake, reduce some tension, and then wind the rest in by hand. So let's do that.
Job done. Phew. Alrighty guys, so just like the last part of the video, installing the winch, I've run out of light again. That's a quick little overview of what we've done here. Very cool little setup. Sneaky little wall winch all hidden away, all very subtle, just the way I like it. And finish that off with a bloody beautiful sunset. So anyway, if you want to see some more action, consider subscribing. I'll try and put this thing to the test in the real world, actually getting me out of a place that I can't drive. And if you enjoyed what you saw, please consider liking and subscribing for more content. Cheers guys.